Welcome to the REI Agent, a holistic approach to life through real estate. I'm Mattias, an agent and investor.
And I'm Erica, a licensed therapist.
Join us as we interview guests that also strive to live bold and fulfilled lives through business and real estate investing.
Tune in every week for interviews with real estate agents and investors.
Ready to level up?
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the REI Agent. Today we have a unique and special and fun episode for you. We have Jesse Vasquez. Jesse is in the midterm rental space. He is a mentor to people wanting to get into that space. He's been doing it for a while, has gotten really good at it. And I was like, hey man, I have a property that I've been thinking about doing this with. You want to do a live, like figuring out if it will work? Let's run some numbers. Let's crunch some numbers. So basically he did that. He walks through the process of how he turns a property into, or analyzes the market, analyzes a property to see if it would be suitable, to get a rough idea for how much you could expect for a monthly income. Talks about strategies for booking these, with in relation to my local market. But it could be it applies to anybody. So I think it's a really fun way of hearing first his story of how he kind of got into it and what he loves about the space, but then B, hearing about how he actually goes through the process of figuring out if midterm rentals could be a good option for a property. So selfishly, I'm stoked, and I want to now make this into a midterm rental. He sold me on it, but aside from that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about just kind of the way, or the importance of kind of continuing that education process in being a real estate agent. So the more you understand about unique things in real estate, the better you're going to be able to serve your clients. He gives an example of a couple of people that he mentored that were agents that then started understanding how midterm rentals functioned in their area, and they were able to then build a really good business with investor clients in that kind of niched space that maybe other people didn't understand in their market. And if you look around your market, there probably are some midterm rentals. People are probably very familiar with short-term rentals and understand what midterm rentals are, but what he gets into is very nuanced as far as how to find reoccurring business, and not just putting it on Airbnb and hoping that people book it, or furnished finders. So definitely stay tuned for that. But I wanted to get into that knowledge piece. When I first started to get fascinated into real estate, well, let's just start from the beginning. I bought a house and had a lot of fun with the agent, and had a lot of fun in the process, and thought, man, this could be something that I could really see myself getting into. This has a lot of my skill sets. I could be a real estate agent. I could do this. And this was going to be a side hustle that I really wanted to make into a full-time hustle, but we were paying off debt at the time. So we wanted to do anything we could to keep the money as high as possible, so we could pay off as much as possible. Wasn't ready to just jump full into real estate sales, especially since it was in 2014 and the market was a lot slower. So anyway, got into real estate then. And then as I was teaching, trying to teach people with my blog to try to get some traction in my sales business, I would get into real estate investing. And that kind of started understanding, what the terms were. I would have like, a blog post about what cash flow is, what cash on cash return is, things like that. And it was a way of, honestly learning at the time, some of those things. Some of them I was familiar with, but others were starting to learn. And as far as, from there, I created a local real estate club where we just kind of hung out and had a guest speaker talk. My first idea was just let's all have a beer at a brewery, hear a seasoned person talk about their experience, and we can ask some questions and we can all learn from it. And then I, met another guy that made it a little bit more formal. He was familiar with, kind of the traditional model of REI's, real estate investment groups. And so we made it a little more formalized. We had kind of a mix of how we both operated, and had some bigger guests come in because of his connections, et cetera, which was really great. But the reason I'm saying all this is that this fascination was a little bit selfish because I wanted to learn about real estate investing. I wanted to invest in real estate and I wanted to build up my portfolio. But it also then started really benefiting my clients. The first people that were in my real estate group were really just people that were also my clients, that were also my friends, that were also in this kind of journey of wanting to build up their rental portfolio. And I think through this process, we have, become close and, or just kind of share that bond over this. And I feel like I have a good, that they're going to ask me questions that I don't necessarily need to get a paycheck every time they have a question about real estate investing. We keep up. Otherwise, we just have this good relationship, which is good for business, right? And then when I started getting into flipping houses, that kind of stuff, I started understanding houses in a more intimate way, seeing the guts of it, if you will, and kind of understanding also the cost related to some of the renovations. And I started getting good connections with contractors, and kind of seeing the transformation of a house was all just really, really good information that I could help give to my clients as well. Not related to investing, but just going to home inspections, seeing, if you are new, going to every home inspection you can, even going to other people's home inspections. If you can ask a really busy agent, hey, do you mind if I go to your home inspection for you? Or can I just tag along if you're going to be there too? I don't care. Is really, really informative, especially if you find a home inspector that is like kind of more of an educator that likes to kind of share their knowledge about houses. Sometimes they talk about things that aren't really things that are going to be on the report, but just the best way to maintain a house, good tips and tricks. That stuff is really, really informative and good for you to have this base so that you can build up yourself as more and more and more and more and more of an expert, that whenever somebody comes to you with a question, you have a really good experience, really good insight to whatever question they have about their house, or you can help them see what the house could be if you put in $20,000, that kind of thing. So I think the more knowledge you have, the better. And with this midterm rental angle, I think it's a really, really interesting piece of the puzzle that you could bring a lot of value to your clients. So this is a really fun episode for me. I hope it's really fun for everybody else. I think it's really informative. But if you're an agent listening to this podcast, I think it is so good to hear all these different avenues and some of the things you're going to relate to more when we get into the investing side of things, because we do investing and sales episodes. But some of the investing stuff you might feel more drawn to than others. But having a good understanding of it all is super important. And I don't think a lot of agents focus on the sales, and real estate investing can be just kind of this other world altogether. And I think that understanding them and how you can kind of marry them, this is kind of the bridge between the two worlds, if you will. That's what one of the goals of this podcast is. It just kind of makes you a more well-rounded professional that can give really, really good advice. If you're investing in your own marketplace, you're going to build connections, you're going to have contractors, you're going to have that local knowledge, you're going to really understand what things that are just going to be really helpful for your clients. Okay, I'm done rambling, but without further ado, we have Jesse Vasquez. This is a really fun one, so make sure you leave a beautiful review on my platforms and also Jesse's, because he did a really good job explaining this stuff for our audience. Welcome back to the REI Agent. We are here with Jesse Vasquez. Jesse, first of all, did I say your last name right?
Vasquez. Yeah, you got it. You said it right.
I usually try to ask just to make sure before we go on air, but we'll do it here live for you. You can see behind the scenes.
Yeah, you're good, man. I actually pronounced my last name wrong for like the first 17 years of my life. So if you do, it's not going to hurt my feelings.
Yeah, Jesse, thanks so much for being on here. It's a lot of fun. We actually have a really kind of a unique show in store for you guys. Today, I asked Jesse if he'd be willing to. So Jesse is a midterm rental expert, and I actually have been chewing on a property that I'm working on now as to potentially being going between long-term and midterm rental options, thinking that maybe midterm rentals would make it pencil out a little bit better. The property just doesn't cash flow super well with my projections. So the third option is to sell it. But our city does not allow short-term rentals. Midterm rentals, 30 days and longer are allowed. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. But before that, Jesse, tell me about what got you into this space, what got you into real estate in general. Tell me a little bit about your story.
Yeah, man. First off, thanks for having me here, man. I really, really appreciate it. So basically back in 2015, I worked in healthcare for 17 years. Started back in 2004, right around there. In the sales side of healthcare. So business development, where basically I would go into hospitals and I would talk to what were considered case managers. And they basically, if somebody fell and broke their hip or had some kind of medical emergency and needed to go home and have nursing or therapy, like a nurse actually go into the house, my job was to go become friends with the case managers, who are the nurses that discharge these patients to go home. So as I was doing that one day, I was actually in Modesto, California, and I was in a hospital called Doctors Medical Center. And I was walking down the hall, and it was one of these like dimly lit hospital hallways. It's like an older fluorescent light. You know what I'm talking about? It almost kind of looks like yellow, like a yellow tint. And I was standing at this nursing station, and there was this light that was like flickering up top, and it was just kind of like this surreal scenario. And this woman came up, and she had this incredible accent. And she was saying things like, tell me if you know what this accent is. She was saying like, don't you know? And isn't he a doll? And do you know what accent that is?
Is that like Minnesota, Michigan?
Yeah, there you go. She was from Fargo, North Dakota. And I was instantly drawn to that because everybody says dude and bro and man, just like, what I say all the time here, even the women and the ladies do here in California. And so I was just drawn to her because of her accent. And I talked to her. Her name was Barbara. She was at that nursing station. And we were just talking, and she said, I asked her, what are you doing here with that accent? And she said, I'm on assignment. I'm a travel nurse. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, well, where are you staying? And she told me she was staying at the crappiest motel, but she didn't say that. She said, I'm staying at the Motel 6 on 9th Street. And for those of you that are familiar with Modesto, like that is the worst. It's the worst freaking hotel to stay at in the Central Valley. Prostitutes, drugs, it's bad. And to think about a travel care clinician that's actually serving the community, staying in a place like that, I'm just like, what is going on? And I asked her, why are you staying there? And she said, because there's nowhere to stay here. There's like not really any hotels. And at that time, there really wasn't. The nicest hotel was a Red Lion hotel, which was like $250 a night. There's no way a nurse is going to pay that. So I asked her, that was the next question. I was like, well, how much are you paying for that? She said she's paying almost $3,000 a month to stay at Motel 6. And which puts it right around $100 a night. If you think about like 90 something bucks, right around there. And she said that, with fees and all that stuff, she just was like, that's what it equals out to. And at that time, man, I was able to buy, I wasn't thinking about real estate. At that time, I realized that I could buy a property for $250,000 and have a $1,300 or $1,400 a month mortgage payment. And I, basically thought that was the first thing that I thought. I didn't think about real estate. So I asked her, what are you doing here? How long are you on assignment? And she just said, there's not enough housing. And I said, how do I find out, how do I actually connect to get people like you to stay at properties? And she said, go down and talk to, there was a woman down in the HR department. Go talk to her and see if you can, connect with her. So I go downstairs, and if you've ever been in a hospital before, you have to have a badge to get in everywhere. Like I didn't actually work as official part of the hospital. So I sat there by the HR department door for like 10 minutes before a nurse came in. And it's Mattias, right? Am I saying right? Mattias. Yeah. Mattias. So Mattias, basically what happened is this nurse, put her badge up to the little kiosk kind of thing, and beeped in. She opened the door. And it was one of those doors, it's like a quiet close. You know how like in hospitals, how these doors will open right away, and then they'll like kind of start to slowly close so it's not a loud noise. I sat there for a second. I'm like, should I do it? One decision right here. I wouldn't actually be talking to you if I didn't do this. And this is what I want everybody to realize, like full circle. Door was getting ready to close. I jammed over to it. I stuck my foot in the door like probably 5 inches before it shut. And I opened it and I walked in. And there was a woman sitting right in front, and her name was Misty. I remember she had these big giant letters that said Misty as her name, like as people put it on their desks. And I was like, Misty, hey, I just talked to Barbara up on the third floor on the telemetry floor. And she told me that you actually help with housing clinicians. And she's like, well, what are you doing in here? And I was like, well, I work in the whole thing. Anyway, we ended up talking, and she said that they had so much difficulty finding housing for people that they were actually thinking about renting a house so they can have clinicians stay at these properties, or doctors stay on rotation at this property while they were doing these things. In fact, that hospital used to actually own a bunch of doors back in the day, and they ended up selling them, like, I don't know, 20 years prior to this whole situation. So that right there opened up the door for me to start to have a contract with an actual hospital, with an actual company called AMN Healthcare, which was the recruiting agency for that Barbara, who was a clinician. And I worked in all these different hospitals from LA all the way up to San Francisco. I actually worked in the Bay Area a lot too. And I just saw a bunch of barbers like everywhere. Like, it started to come to fruition where, when you're going to go buy a new car, you're like, I want to get a Tesla or whatever. You start to see them like literally everywhere.
Yeah, right.
Because your brain's looking for that pattern, that recognition. And that's exactly what started to happen with me. It's like, I started to see these clinicians everywhere. I started to see, because I was looking for it. And I realized the more people that I talked to, that they needed housing. And that's essentially what opened the door for me, is that, me putting my foot in the door, going and asking questions. I had no business going in that room at all, or asking, Barbara what she was doing or how long she's on assignment. And that's what it took. Right after that, I went and bought a property within the next 60 days. I already had a contract. They already were like, yeah, you get a house, we'll work with you. So that was it. I just was off to the races, and that's how I got started.
That's awesome. I mean, what a great metaphor. You literally were seeing the opportunity closing in front of you, and you decided to act.
And the reason I brought that up too, Mattias, is because I think there's so many little small instances that people have in their life. And it's just, if they didn't take that one little action of what you think might be so super small, which in grand scheme of things is the pivotal moment of where you were, and then where you moved to, like, where I'm at now. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here with you.
Yeah. And it's kind of beautiful too that you probably didn't have a time to like really overthink at that stage, right? I think there's definitely, times where people might be able to convince themselves that that's not smart. I could get arrested. I'm breaking and entering or whatever, right? If they had more time. But I think, just go ahead and taking that action, and trusting you'll figure it out. I mean, that's a cool metaphor. I love it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I had no real estate experience. I saw the opportunity, and I was like, okay, cool. How do I house these folks that are coming into these markets? And that's where it started.
Have you done any arbitrage in this journey, or do you always buy?
Nope, I've done plenty of arbitrage. I think it's a great way to get involved in this type of environment without committing yourself to, like, 50, 60, 70, $100,000 to buy, a property and things like that. So I think it's a great way, especially if you get a contract ahead of time, which is pretty cool. If you get a contract like I did, you get a contract, then you get the door. That's a totally different feeling than going in blind and then just being like, okay, the numbers look like they might work, and then we'll try it. Because as everybody knows, when we go through this today with your property, like, running the numbers is the most important thing. And there's no software or anything out there that actually can show us how much the property can make. We have to like do a little bit of research and a little bit of work to figure that out.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm excited. This is a very selfish podcast, guys. I am here just taking advantage of Jesse's knowledge. We had somebody else on that I think primarily did arbitrage, and he went the same route. He kind of had those contracts lined up, and then it was just a matter of like connecting the dots. He was facilitating the need, right? And but he got into buying as well, and obviously I think long term buying is going to be great. I think if you have a property that could pencil out with a long term rental, I mean, I think that's like a grand slam. That might be a lot harder, especially I would imagine in like Southern California. That's probably a very difficult prospect these days, especially.
Yeah, and what's crazy? Like, I've been talking about this a lot now, and I should probably coin this phrase. I see this rise, Mattias, about these modern investors that are coming into real estate, where it's like interest rates are too high for us to use traditional long-term rental investing techniques. Which, where's the 1% rule now? Like, honestly, like, anybody out there, please put it in the chat box. Like, let us know where these 1% rule places still exist. And I'm sure they do somewhere in Kansas and maybe in Ohio somewhere and all that stuff. I'd rather invest for appreciation, but Man, there's investors now that are looking at businesses that are attached to their actual tangible real estate. So like you're seeing a lot of residential care facilities that are turning from single family homes. You're seeing the sober living facilities or communities that are coming from single family homes. You're seeing midterm rental operators that are now turning their properties into businesses that are attached, and they're helping their communities by connecting with different referral sources in certain markets. So it's like I've been seeing this kind of evolution of a modern investor that's doing short, mid, looking at these different types of modes of different types of real estate that necessarily wasn't mainstream before. But the reason why is because we're living in a different time. There's a modern era of investing, and I'm seeing that like happen right now in real time. It's pretty cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's a different time for sure. I think when we were looking at 2.5% interest rates or, whatever crazy rates people were getting, it was, you could kind of like throw a dart onto a map and just make the numbers work. It wasn't, you didn't have to quite be as creative. But now, I think we're really needing to, we have to kind of have a broad knowledge and to really understand, lending products. That's a huge one, different DSCR loans. There's all sorts of different things that you can get into that you may not have had to think about before. But having a broad knowledge of loan products, having a broad knowledge of, how to make a property actually profitable for its unique situation. And, that's exactly what I'm facing here with this property. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have, no question jumped on this property to keep long term. Now I'm just, not sure. I could reinvest that cash that I would get from selling it into something that would return much better. But then I might not have the appreciation, tax benefits, et cetera, depending on what I invest in. So it's an interesting time. And I think that, it's good to know these kind of strategies and to have an idea of how to look into them. And so, again, thank you for letting me pick your brain.
Yeah. And this right here, what you're talking about right now in 2020, probably a lot of investors were at the point where their hard money loans were like coming up and they had to keep stuff and they couldn't sell it because they weren't going to make profit on it. So like all these flippers were like, what the hell am I going to do? A lot of them called me and were just like, Jess, I need to turn this into a midterm rental. I need to figure stuff out with this. I can't sell it. I'm going to be selling it at a loss. It's been sitting on the market. So we're seeing a lot of that. It's even harder to flip now than it was before in the past. So you got to get creative. And you're right. I think the number one thing for anybody, if they're getting involved with real estate today, like you got to know what exit strategies you're going to be potentially having to do before you even get involved with real estate. So like what we're going to show today, like this is just one piece of an exit strategy of multiple different types of exit strategies that you should have in your tool belt as you're getting ready to invest in anything. Or if, again, just like you, where you have something, you're just like, all right, well, what's my exit going to be? It's way better to know ahead of time than like wait to the moment where you're just like, oh my God, I got to figure this stuff out. It's been 3 months already. I paid the mortgage for 3 months. And I see people that have that happen where it's like they're living paycheck to paycheck. And then like all of a sudden now they're like having to pay that extra mortgage or that hard money loan that's continuing to add up. And they're just like, I don't know what to do with it. My property's not selling. All right, well, here's an exit. Like it's better to know it up front. So that's what we're going to be teaching everybody today.
Yeah, that's cool. And I love it because, when I bought this place, it was, I had 3 different ideas in my head, selling it, like exactly what we just talked about, selling it, midterm rental and long-term rental if it could pencil out. But yeah, do you want me to go ahead and share the screen? We can dive into it.
Yeah, let's jump into it. So I'm not going to give the full address here, but maybe it might. I don't know if you guys can block that out, but this is going to be in, what is the city? Harrisburg, right?
Harrisonburg, Virginia. Yeah.
Harrisonburg, Virginia. Okay, cool. So long-term rental rates, it's saying $22.32. Is that about average? About $2,300?
That would probably be pushing it a little bit.
You think it's a little high?
But that's not too far off. It with the finishes that we're doing, I think that's possible, but it might be a little bit.
Oh, here we go. $1,800. So you see how it says long-term and then long-term 18. So 18 to 22. Does that sound a little bit more accurate?
Yeah. 18
okay,
is probably pretty safe.
Okay, cool. So here's the thing. I'm using a website called Mashvisor right now. Mashvisor does not, it doesn't actually give us midterm rental rates. So what we're doing is we're actually having to go in and see comps. That's how you do it with the midterm space. Already what I'm looking at, you can't use this as a short-term rental, right? This market doesn't allow you to short-term rent.
Correct. Yeah, it's not allowed unless it's the primary residency.
Okay, so even people now their occupancy is 60% through Airbnb. So people that are listing their properties for 30 days at a time are 60% occupied. That's actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you go back and looked at what I just saw earlier, if somebody was to list their property on Airbnb, they're looking about $183 a night, or excuse me, $183 a night, which is going to equal around $3,078, which would be pretty close to your midterm numbers. Now, this is where we have to go in and do a little bit of the comps. We're going to be looking at how many properties are out there.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's not very many 3 bedrooms. You see this right here? So we're looking at occupancy rate by rental, but you also see how the occupancy rate goes down when you have a 3 bedroom, goes up when you have a 4. It's highest with the 1 bedroom. So this is always something that I pay attention to. This is another thing I pay attention. Ask me questions as we're moving along so that you can get a better understanding.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of if it is a 3 bedroom technically, but lives very well as a 1 bedroom, do you think that plays into? We talked a little bit. So what I did with this property was there was kind of a foyer room that didn't make a lot of sense. It was too big to be a foyer. And I think it's technically the 3rd bedroom they're talking about. I created that into a 3rd bedroom, added a closet, added another front door, left the door there just in case somebody wanted to use it as a front door, depending on their purposes. Could make a great office. But I turned one of the bedrooms added a huge walk-in closet. It's right across from the 1 bathroom, big enough for a king-size bed, and just it's set up really well to be a great 1 bedroom kind of house with a guest room and an office. Okay,
so technically it's a 3-1, but it's set up to be a one bedroom. But let's dive into that for a minute. So just for everybody listening out there, the more bedrooms you have, the higher your income is going to be. That's just usually how it is. If 1 bedroom, this is what we're going to look at here, rental size distribution. You see how there's a lot of studios and a lot of 1 bedrooms? You see that right here?
Yeah.
There's only 38 listings in this market. Like that's for me is like, I would dominate a market that had only 38 listings. So like when I look at this, I'm just like, I would own this all day.
I do have another clarifying question if sorry not to interrupt. This would show all the Airbnbs listed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them will be like apartments of people's houses. That's allowed. That can be a short-term rental. I don't know a ton of midterms that are out there, honestly. Those might be mostly that kind of scenario where it's like a 2 bedrooms in their basement they're renting out.
Yeah. See, I'm looking at rental stats right now, and maybe you could tell me if I'm wrong on here, but now it's showing me a totally different thing about like long-term rentals. It's showing about $1,300 to $1,400 for long-term rentals. And again, this is just Mashvisor. It's not like Rental Meter or anything. So you have to go back and look at that. So this is where we go in and we do the comps. So the average property that you have that's in the 80th percentile or higher, this is what I'm looking at. When I get into a market, I'm going to have one of the better design properties.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, I want to be in the 90th to 95th percentile.
Okay.
9 out of 10 times I can do that. So with that alone, that says it's going to put us around 4K. Now, this is where we have to go in and do a lot of work. What I love about Mashvisor, and keep in mind for everybody out there that's listening to this, Mashvisor is expensive as heck. It is not cheap, but it allows me to see the entire year of what people are earning. You see that here, Mattias, where it shows like our entire year of a property. So I'm gonna want to look for a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and as you saw earlier, there's not a whole lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll take a look. So this is saying somewhere downtown. We'll see what size bedroom this is. This is a 2 bedroom, 3 bath. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to find something that A is going to look like an actual comp, something that's like comparable to what our units are going to look like after they're refurbished. What the design, like this is a pretty clean little design. This person did in this property right here. It looks like it's downtown. It's got a cute little backyard area. And you can see the map.
I know that property. Yeah.
You know this property?
Yeah.
Okay. So this property alone right here, and we're going to be calling out the numbers of whoever owns this. So hopefully they're not listening here. If they are,
it's all good.
It's all good. But yeah, so we can see already what was that property called? Spacious Downtown Home. All right. Spacious Downtown Home. Okay. So we could see right here what they're earning per month.
It's a little bit small on my screen. So,
So what I would do normally is I'd put all these numbers in here. So it goes from February of 2024 all the way up to January of 2025. The numbers are, if we were to average these out, it probably would put us, the highest month is $3,180, which was last month in December.
Okay.
And the lowest month earnings were about $2,300, or excuse me, $2,200 back in July, which isn't very much money. I mean, I guess it could be all right. But anyway, if we average these things out, it'd probably be right around about $2,900 a month, I would assume. So this one right here, we're going to be looking for 3 comps that are same and similar. I would actually take this one, even though it is only a 2-bedroom. It's got 3 beds. It sleeps 6 guests. It's got 1 bath. So this is pretty comparable to where you're at. But if you look, guest favorite, it's 4.99 reviews. I'm trying to figure out why they are able to short-term rent in this place.
It's a duplex.
Is that a duplex?
They live. I think they live in the other half. I would imagine.
Dude, that's pretty good. That's some pretty good money for a duplex in there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a cool property. It's a nice one.
Got you. Okay, here's another one. This one is doing over 4,000. So this is a 3-bedroom right here. And this is a guest suite. It's exactly what you're talking about. Your entire guest suite, 3-bedroom. You're right. It's hosted by David. Another set of good reviews. The place looks pretty cool. Like, it has like a serene backyard for those of you that cannot see it.
Yeah.
It looks a little dark inside. This is cluttered for me. Like, I would not want to be here.
I agree.
It just looks like grandma's like place. The outside's cool. The serene area. Cool. But the inside just for everybody watching, it kind of, or listening, it looks like a vintage, and not a cool vintage, like a 1930s dark kind of setup.
It's also not professional photography, so that doesn't give it any favors. Like, they're not using a flash, or they don't have HDR. It's not highlighting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But let's go back and look at how crazy these numbers are on this place. So, Friendly City Garden Sanctuary, 3-bedroom. Can you see these numbers, dude?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, we're looking at $2,400 a month for February, all the way up to $3,500 a month in October. And keep in mind, these are people. This is somebody renting part of their property, which is pretty awesome to think about. So, I mean, if we were to average these properties out, I mean, these numbers, and again, this is me just ballparking it, you're probably looking at $2,800 a month for this place. So I would take that as a comp too.
Sure.
So we'll take those two. And let's find one more that is that we can say is a comp. Here's another 2-bedroom. Let's see if we can find a 3. You know this market pretty well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not a huge market, so
you know this place? There's even an address right here.
That one I'm not familiar with. No.
Got you. Okay.
But I'm also wondering if that is maybe technically in the county, as opposed to in the city.
Got you. Yeah, it could be.
If they would be allowed to.
Regulations. I'm going to put this one aside right now, and then let's go back and see if we can find one more that might be.
Anything that says downtown definitely is a similar area to where mine is.
Okay, this one right here, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or 1.5 bath, hosted by Sarah.
That's probably a good comp. Yeah. Yeah,
this one right here. This kind of looks like it still has that old school look to it, but I like how clean. They're not professional photos. Like this could be way better. But it looks cool.
That would be a good comp.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, we have an older house that it's an older house that would have some of that old charm.
Yeah, I love this right here.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's go look at this. So just for reference, this is like basically a what would you say, Mattias? Like a 1940s home?
Yeah, something like that.
Original hardwood floors, probably redone kitchen. Countertops are, what is that stuff called?
Is that a butcher block? It looks like
a butcher block. Yeah. So it looks like modern and kind of boho and kind of cool looking, like people like that kind of stuff now. So we'll go back and we'll use this one as a historic downtown home.
And I'm wondering if that is something that they live in and then actually leave when they rent it out.
That could be, man. I mean, it looks like
some people do.
It looks like you're probably right. It looks like somebody definitely lives here. I think it does. But again, there's no professional photography, none of that stuff on there. Historic downtown home. Let's find this again on here. Where the heck was that? Historic downtown. Okay, here we go. All right, this one right here is freaking killing it, dude. Look at this. $5,800, $5,600. This is rented. This is what I would consider midterm rental numbers. Huh. You see how they're consistent? 50, 58, or excuse me, 5,600, 5,600. 6,000, 62, 6,000, 5,600, 6,200, 6,000, 5,800. This property right here is doing over $5,500 a month.
That's okay. That's blowing my mind more because I wonder if they have an apartment somewhere on the property that they live in. Because to skirt the rules, man,
This
okay.
does not look like there's this.
I don't know, man.
Unless this back unit back here or something. And even then, dude, like I don't know. The front of this place looks kind of busted up, but the inside looks cool. Like it looks nice inside.
They don't lead with the front shot.
It doesn't at all. But when you go inside, it has that vintage like charm that we were talking about right now. I think is really cool with homes. So this right here, dude, this would be a comp that I'd be like, okay, I love this.
We're gonna try to get there.
Yeah, $5,600 a month. And we go back and we look at the place that was the 5 minutes to shops downtown. That was still around, what do we say, around 3,000. So that's a big disparity between 3,000 and $5,600. I still think this might be the better comp that you have, but for the sake of this, we're just going to say, this place, if you were to list it, because again, this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, sleeps only 3 guests. Dude, that's freaking wild.
They must live in one of the rooms then. That's must be what it is. That's crazy.
I don't think so, man. Centrally located home, less than 5 minutes downtown, 15 to 20-minute walk to JMU. This home features 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, gorgeous indoor, outdoor spaces, fully stocked kitchen. Absolutely no pet smoking parties on premises. I don't think so, man.
Does it have like an entire house, or don't they often say that if it's like the entire house?
Yeah, it should.
Somewhere.
Yeah, entire home right here. See?
I'm confused then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Anyway,
maybe they got it listed anyway. And they've been listing. They've had this for a while now, a couple of years. So I would look at this again, regardless of let's see what the availability is on here.
I mean, again, they could be doing if it's a midterm, that would be another possibility, right?
Yeah, and that's where I'd be leaning right now. The only reason why I'm leaning that way is because if we go back and look at the yearly numbers, they're so consistent, 56, 58, 58, 66,000,
Yeah, you're right.
6,000. When you see random like numbers that skew real hard, or then you'll have a 0 right there. When I see zeros in months, that means that they're doing exactly what you just said. Maybe living in it and then renting it out. Look at this. Renting it out, living in the home during that time. So that could be what's happening with this historic downtown home, is that July they jammed out, September they jammed out, November they jammed out. Or the other option of that is that they're renting it direct to a person rather than through Airbnb. And again, this is the problem with, there's no software out right now that can actually show us how much people are earning and all that stuff. So that's what I'm doing right now. And after we looked at this, like if we want to even be conservative and put all those 3 things together, I would say, this house, if you were to midterm rent it, even with 60% occupancy, you're probably able to rent for $3,500 a month. And that's us being like generous.
Okay. And the numbers at 3,000 a month become a lot more appealing to me. So like it's, I love the property, the location, and I was basically trying to justify a way to keep it. And so, even 2,500 a month, I'm getting a lot more interested. So you tell me 3,000 to 3,500, that makes it a lot better for sure.
Yeah, let's go in and look at Furnish Finder 2 and see what is going on there. Harrisonburg.
Yeah, Virginia.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, cool. We're gonna check in. Let's go out some months. So the first, our budget, we're gonna want to go. Let's just say 2,000. Let's see what we got coming up here. So this is what else I do. I'll go on Furnish Finder and look to see what. See how it shows us a map right here.
Yeah.
So I'll go in here and look at what properties are same and similar on these markets. We're just doing a budget from 500 to 2,000. I would actually stretch this out a little bit. Let's just go to 5,000.
Okay.
Like we saw with the other place. Maybe we'll see it on here. What did we say traditional rent is in there? About $1,700? Is that?
I would say 18. Yeah, 18 would be pretty.
Well, let's just go 18. And then
the cheaper ones you're seeing are probably townhouses that are like 1,400, kind of not renovated.
Got you. So we're going back to search again. Where are you located on this map here? Like if you were to say, all right, Jess, your place, or my place is
right around where you're up a little bit to the left. Where that 3,000 is, that 3,000? Yeah. Roughly around there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So these would be perfect comps then. So we're going to go to this guy
a little bit further north, but that's pretty close. Yeah.
So both of these places are right around 3,000. So this is what we're going to do too, exactly like what we did a minute ago. We're fine. This place looks really cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. 3,000 a month. This place is. It looks really appealing from the outside. For those of you that are, it's got an orange door. It's kind of like that new school plank siding that's gray with an orange door, so it really pops. This place looks cool. Like I would actually like to stay at this place.
Yeah, that's a really nice one. How big was it?
3.2. It doesn't tell us
1,000 square feet.
How much is it? 1,000?
Yeah, that's what it says.
It's pretty tiny. That's pretty small. Then, yours is what? How many square feet is your place?
It says the tax record says around 1,000, but I'm pretty sure it's bigger, or at least I saw that on the on whatever the records just showed.
Got it. And what we're doing right now, you guys, for everybody watching or listening to this, we're on Furnish Finder. We're just trying to find, again, we're comping out a same and similar property, exact same thing. We're verifying numbers from Mashvisor, which shows us exactly what these short-term rentals are doing in that market. Then we're going back to Furnish Finder to see what people have them listed for. So that place that we just looked at is $3,000 a month, which is exactly what we talked about the numbers earlier.
Yeah, right.
Here's another place for $3,500. It seems to be really close to where your property's at.
Yeah.
This place looks pretty cool. This is a 2-bedroom. Yeah, 2.5 bath, 4 guests. This is 3,200 square feet. So it's a pretty big ass 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath.
An entire house?
It's an entire house, yeah.
Only 2 bedrooms for that one? I remember when that one's for sale.
Really?
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, 2-bedroom. Yeah, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. This place looks cool. Like they did a really that looks cool.
Wow.
That looks super dope. It has, so for those of you that are listening to this, it's a vintage house that has its complete vintage charm, and they just kind of cleaned it up a lot. It's got a really cool design in it. In the kitchen, that's really cool.
Type home.
Yeah, the kitchen looks like it was redone. It looks like it has quartz countertops. Like it looks like they did a pretty cool job with this house. So then we're looking at, it still has, is that wallpaper? It is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's updated wallpaper though.
Yeah, it does have that charm to it. It's kind of like a Joanna Gaines-ish style Magnolia Homes kind of thing. But this place right here is another comp. Like, I would look at it and be like, okay, we looked at the numbers here. We looked on Mashvisor. We can now justify that our property at a 3.2 coming in at something similar to what this is going to look like is going to put us in that category of the 3,000 a month. Okay. That alone right there is that gives me enough confidence to be like, okay, cool. I feel comfortable with that. So now what I do, what I'll also do, what's in this market that's favorable? Like, tell me about this market right here, so we can talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely. So we biggest like driver of the whole economy, it's James Madison University. So we have a university that is close to downtown, which this property is. So we would be biking distance, that kind of stuff from it. I mean, you could walk, but it's a little bit further depending where you're going, which makes the downtown area be vibrant as well, with restaurants and bars from because of the students. And we have a unique downtown where they really focus in on local stuff, and they don't have chains, so that it becomes like organically really good to be able to make it. All that to say is that's where we're close to, and that's helpful. We also have Centera Hospital that is not downtown anymore. It's a little bit further out, but a lot of nurses, traveling nurses and stuff could be coming from that hospital. We have a few plants. We have a Walmart distribution center. We have Merck, and we have Coors plant. There are some other bigger industry stuff as well around, but those are kind of the bigger players.
Got it. And the reason why I'm asking you that is because just like traditional long-term renting, that's exactly what we're going to be looking for in a market that's growing, that has good schools, that has a hospital. And another thing about hospitals is like, you'll have level 1, level 2 hospitals, which are like your ER, Grey's Anatomy kind of stuff, where you have like all these surgeons that can come in, a brain surgeon that's available right away. And I'm thinking this is probably a little bit more rural, where you have a stage 3, stage 4, stage 5 hospital, which are, excuse me, level 3, level 4, level 5. They're more of like a more rural type hospitals, but you'll still have flying in, nurses and travel nurses that will come to these markets. Probably. But that's where we have to do what I did, right? Either you can go in there yourself and knock on the HR department door and say, hey, do you guys have clinicians that are coming in here? Or what you do is you start just calling the hospital and saying, hey, I actually have housing for travel clinicians. Can you tell me what agency you guys are working with right now that is recruiting these types of folks to this market? So then I would go on LinkedIn and I would message those companies. If they're like AMN Healthcare is who we work with, I'd go on LinkedIn. I would type in recruiter. I would type in Virginia. I would start to message the people, or even more importantly, I would find out who the HR representative is in that hospital, and then just look them up on LinkedIn or call them and say, hey, I have available housing. The same play that I did, right? How I went in and did all. You could do that on the phone, or you could go in person. I believe going in person the old school way is a little bit better. But now at least we get a good real life understanding. What's your mortgage on this place right now?
There is none currently. I would be having to do a refinance.
A refi. Okay, cool. So I mean, even at that, like if you're able to do $3,000 a month and you refi on that, hopefully your payments, I don't know, $2,000 or something like that.
I'd probably be around 16, maybe even less if you're just looking at the, not the vacancy and all the other things you're supposed to factor in.
No brainer for me then. Yeah. So I would be looking at this like, okay, cool. Well, here's the other part of this where the problem starts to come in. You got to furnish these properties too. I think people don't realize, like, once you buy these things, you have to furnish them. So you can go, there's a couple different ways. I always usually average $10 a square foot for a property. Okay. So if you got 1,000 square feet, you're $10 a square foot, that's going to put you at $10,000 to furnish that property. So you're going to add that into your costs, right? You're going to add that into your overall expenses. But even then, if I'm making $1,000 a month cash flow from one freaking door, which is totally possible, I think, maybe even more than that with this property, you're going to make that back in 10 months. But within the first year, you're already in the positive when it comes to that. So for me, my brain, again, does it cover these three things? Do I have job growth? Do I have assets that are community based that are going to be bringing people in, which is a hospital, education, a college, those types of things? Is there job growth or any type of infrastructure that's happening in this market where there's people that are coming from outside the market to my specific city? Do we have a lot of hotels in my market? How often are they occupied? Those are things I'd be looking at. The people that are staying in those hotels right now, those are your potential clients. And I do crazy stuff like this, Mattias. I'll go drive by those extended stay hotels and take a picture of the work trucks that are out there. And I'll call and say, hey, I saw a work truck out there. Are you guys on assignment? How long are you staying at these properties? Would you be willing to, if I'm willing to save you thousands of dollars a month, would you be willing to work with me? And then I'll start talking to them I'll find out about, real quick story on this. There was a Dave & Buster's that was being built in my market. Trucks were parked out front, and this was from the ground up. Louisiana trucks, Louisiana plates. I called the company and I said, hey, I see that there's a work truck out. I know that they're building a Dave & Buster's here. Do you mind telling me a little bit more about where your folks are staying? And the lady on the other end of the line, her name was Pam. She was like, oh, this is kind of weird for you calling me. And I'm just like, yeah, I know it's weird, but this is what I do. I actually reach out to people to get their employees to save money and stay in a property that might be closer to the job site. In fact, my property is 0.2 miles away from the job site. I have a garage. I see there's work trucks. There's a space in the backyard where they could park through an alleyway in the back so the trucks would be safe. And I started asking her, where are your guys staying? There was 5 engineers. They were staying in their own rooms at a Holiday Inn Express in my market. It was $165 a night for each one of those guys to stay, which equaled out almost $200 a night. $200 a night times 5. That's $1,000 a day times 30. That's $30,000. They were actually paying $26,000, $25,000 with the discount. And I was like, I would not mind renting my 5-bedroom house to you guys. Three of the guys are going to have bathrooms. The 2 of your least favorite guys are going to have to, go to the hallway at the end of the hall and share that bathroom. But, I'd be willing to rent this to you guys for $10K. And she was just like, sat there quiet on the phone. And she's like, well, let me get back to you. I'm going to reach out to the guys. She wanted to see if they were all willing to stay in the place. We ended up getting that place booked for 3 months, saving that company $20,000 every month. Like, that's crazy to think about. But again, this is like the outside of the box, modern investor that's got more of a hustler mentality. Like, I'm going to go find these clients rather than list on Airbnb and wait for somebody to book. And that's how you get these kind of, relationships starting to build. You start to think differently in different ways. How can I actually get these clients to come work with me? Frito-Lay, like we have those in my market. There's these folks that come work on conveyor belts. They come from all over the US. Guess what? They're in these markets for 30, 60 days at a time. I connected with Frito-Lay, found out about those guys that come and they actually work on the conveyor belts. They stay there usually for 45 days at a time while they're working on new stuff. We house them. We're charging 2x long-term rental rates. So again, there's ways to make things happen. A lot of us have a lot of opportunities in our own backyard.
Yeah.
Which after this conversation and this podcast, people are able to see things in a different light. And there is ways to actually be a little operator, but still do corporate, housing, which is exactly what a small operator like myself is doing, and many other people across the US. They're connecting with companies and doing these exact same things right now in their own markets, getting higher rents, but they're just doing things a little bit different. And I think, again, in that framework of just how we talked about the car earlier, right? When you start to see things, you start to see that car because you want to buy it. After this conversation, after this podcast, I hope people start to frame the way they look at their markets, what the actual potential is there. And most of the time, people aren't paying attention to this stuff. And that's where I believe, like I said earlier, when I looked at this market and there was only 38 listings in there, I'm just like, oh my God, like I would dominate this market because I know that I'd be able to come in there with a different mindset. I'm going to be the 1% that comes in thinking like a business, not just listing on a platform. And that's where you start to build that foundation of like being a business owner, not just an employee of Brian Chesky who lists their property on Airbnb and waits for a booking. Like I'm actually creating my own house on my own land by going after these companies rather than, waiting for somebody to book. And Airbnb is great because it gives you the ability to reach mass amount of people, but it's just a marketing platform that allows you to book too. And we're paying fees for that. So if you could do that on your own without having to necessarily rely on Airbnb solely, and you're able to create your own book of business, that puts you in a totally different class of investing in my mindset.
I don't, man, I'm over here speechless. I've got like a million ideas. We have a Buc-ee's coming in right now. We have, I know of the university put millions and millions and millions of dollars into infrastructure here recently. So we had a ton of out-of-state construction people coming through. There are definitely opportunities like you're talking about. That's really, really fun. I guess one really other quick question, because now I'm sold, is where do you buy your furniture?
Furniture. Do you have an IKEA anywhere nearby?
It's like 2 hours from me.
Okay, don't go there. So I was going to say, don't buy anything from IKEA because you'll buy it like 4 times. I like Wayfair, man. It gives you reviews. A lot of people buy stuff off there. They source stuff from different places. I even like, if I was just starting right now in this market, I'd be going on Facebook Marketplace and looking for quality staple pieces like sofas, credenzas, stuff that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg on. It's still like really good quality. I would, IKEA is a great place to buy like silverware and essentials that the properties need. But yeah, I would go on Wayfair. I'd be, sourcing on those kinds of things. I'd be looking at, Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp or something like that for staple pieces. And I'd be focusing really on the core spaces where people are going to be living. So living room and bedrooms, like really good beds, really cool living spaces, living room, a quality couch that actually feels good, not necessarily doesn't have to look the best, but actually is like a comfy couch.
Sure.
A lot of these Airbnbs like will have really cool looking couches. In fact, the ones that we were looking at earlier, that brown couch, I have this. It's right behind me right there. It looks really freaking cool, but it's not comfortable. And that's the difference, is that people are living in these properties, so they need to feel that comfort that you would have in your own home, and not necessarily just like the super aesthetic house. And the cool thing about midterm rentals too is you don't have to like go crazy with pickleball courts and freaking saunas and cold plungers and all the stuff that people are doing now to make money on the short-term side.
Yeah.
You just have you have to have a place that looks like this. It's comfortable, it's inviting, that has a full stocked kitchen, that has everything in it, because people are going to be cooking and living in this property as if they were actually living there, because they are.
Right.
And so it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just a totally different type of mentality. This looks like a cool little town, man.
We like it, and I think that's actually one of our major growth areas too, or one of a focus is people that come here for the university and don't leave. Because it's a smaller town, it's near mountains, it doesn't have the hustle and bustle, the traffic that you experience. But then we have really cool things like from the university, like sporting, theater, and then we have a really vibrant downtown with amazing food culture, breweries, that kind of stuff. So I think that's one of the areas where we definitely get some of the growth, is just people kind of fall in love with the life here. One of the reasons I haven't left.
Yeah. Man. I mean, it looks like what's the average price point of a property there?
We're around 350 with the median sales income. Sales price.
Got you. Okay, cool. That's not too bad.
Family could get a little bit more depending on where and how big, of course.
Yeah. So again, going back and looking at these numbers right here, I mean, there's a place doing $10,000 a month in this market. We'll look at this for for the heck of it. Yeah, this place is doing $10K a month right now. Harrisonburg, Virginia. $10K a month, man.
I'm trying to figure out where that is.
And this is not even that cool. Like, this is really bad. Oh my goodness.
Got some bright colors if people are listening. I definitely recommend, guys, go to YouTube or Spotify. You'll see the video.
Watch the video on this. This is in the what is that? How do you say that? Pronounce it? You know this market?
Valley.
Yeah, you know that place?
Yeah, I mean, Shenandoah Valley is where we're at. You know, John Denver sang a little bit about it, the Shenandoah River. It's some people argue that West Virginia was not West Virginia, but Western Virginia, because Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River is all where we're at.
Dude, look at these numbers of this place. This is insane. 10,000, 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 in May of 2024. That property is just insane on fire. I don't understand why.
I feel like we're going to have Jesse come buy houses here.
I think they might, man. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. I would be arbitraging a house out there, just giving a year to see what happens, and see if it ends up. That's crazy.
That property is probably like 450 into, probably not up to 600 or anything, but it's probably a minimum of 450 if it was on the market.
Yeah, they're short-term renting this. Look, $530 for 2 nights.
I'm curious about the exact location. If it is actually in the city, I don't recognize the street.
Yeah, it says
Harrisonburg, but people often say that.
1 mile from the heart of downtown. It looks like it might be.
People are just getting away with this. I wonder if that's what it is. That people are just not getting reported or something.
It could be, man. Yeah, no smoking. 25 years old to book. Photo ID upon check-in. Yeah, they're super strict about like people staying here. So maybe the neighbors, they don't want neighbors to get pissed off, and that's typically what happens.
Probably. That's when you get reported.
Yeah, family trips to James Madison University. So that's who they're catering to. It looks like is families coming into the university out there.
That's a huge for short-term rental is huge because there's always parents' weekends, that kind of stuff where we're going to have people coming in to see graduation, to homecoming, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I dude, 10K. Are you serious? I'm looking at this now. I'm ready to buy out there.
Hey, I'm a realtor, so I can hook you up.
Dude, this right here, like this is where I think realtors, if you learn how to do this and now you connect with investors and you're like, I have a student that her name is Rebecca Lynn. She was an agent or still is an agent. And she came into to work with me in like 2021, 2022, trying to work with real estate. She was having a good year, 2021, 2022. She started sucking. 2023, she really sucked. Then she started actually running numbers and kind of doing this whole stuff. She started working with investor clients and totally like changed her entire thing. So, I think there's a lot to learn with investors, or excuse me, agents that learn how to run these numbers and actually can help their clients find cash flowing properties in certain markets. Man, there's a lot to do there.
That's all what we're all about here, man. We're kind of bridging the gap between real estate sales agents and investors. And you're totally right. I bread and butter I'm not bread and butter, but I had a pretty big short-term rental. We have a resort close by, so there's like a really hot spot for typical Airbnbs. But yeah, dude, this has been awesome. This has been super fascinating. I think I'm glad I had the idea. I'm super thankful that you were agreeable to actually show us your process, because this has been really interesting.
Yeah, man, no problem. Again, I think it's one thing to do it. It's another thing to consistently do it and then get results from it. But like, I've done this long enough where I can piggyback off of different things and kind of get a good understanding, because that's what you really need to have. And then you got to put your chips in the table. But again, what are 3 things that are most important? Is it going to work as a long-term rental? If it doesn't work as a long-term rental, am I going to want to take a property that potentially I might have to fall back to that? That's the thing to think about. I personally would be okay investing $200 or $300 a month on something that was a long-term. Some people can't do that, right? Short-term, you can't do that. So that's already out the window. Renting by the room, that's another exit strategy. We look at how much a rental by the room costs. Midterm rentals, that's another exit strategy. So again, I think it's so important to have these different tools in the toolbox as you're connecting and trying to buy a property and seeing where you can go, where you can move things around. If I need to fall back to traditional lending or traditional long-term, is it going to work for me? And again, for most people, with even 20% down, it doesn't necessarily always work unless you get a killer deal or a burr or something like that.
That's what this is. It's a burr.
Gotcha.
And so that helps. That helps a lot, because I wouldn't be able to buy this property market value, especially what we put into it, and make a lot of sense probably. But this is a burr, so I have a little bit more flexibility. And when we're talking about exit strategies too, one of my fallbacks is like, if this falls on its face and I have this furnished house now, I spent $10K on furniture. Well, now I just invested in my staging, my staging furniture for listings and stuff going forward. If I can't get rid of it or whatever. But so that's been my mindset. And if I were to explore this route, and I mean, you're kind of convincing me to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it's like what I would be doing is reaching out to some of the people that are in the markets that are actually doing it too. But again, just looking at that from just this quick general, I feel like it's a pretty strong market. Like it'll probably do well. You have 38 people that you're competing with there. Dude, I think for me, it's just a no-brainer. And then you just said you're an agent. I didn't realize that until now, which obviously the podcast represents that. But go to staging companies and say, hey, what do you guys have from last year that you're going to get rid of? Like, I'll buy that stuff from you. Go check it out. You can actually stage your house for, instead of $10 a square foot, it's probably like $5. Now you're actually coming in for $5,000. You're testing the market. You're dipping your toe in. You're seeing if it's going to work or not. And then you're actually like, you can invest a little bit more later on once you start to see the return come through. But that's another little hack that you could do.
That's cool.
Is connect with the staging company that might have some stuff that's left over that usually will work.
Yeah, man, this has been super fascinating. Thank you so much. Let's get quickly into that book question. I mean, I feel like there's so many more questions we could have about this process, and I'm all fired up. But for the sake of time, I know you're a busy person. What is your favorite book or a fundamental book that you've read that you think everybody should read, or just one that you're really currently enjoying?
I think one of my favorite books of all time is probably Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's pretty practical advice on, forming habits. And, I think those habits that people have on a daily basis are what's going to allow you to propel and move forward. Like we're just talking about midterm rentals. If you created a habit of running numbers literally every day for yourself, for other people, for random, like those are habits that are going to allow you to have exponential growth in the specific professional field that you're wanting to get into. So I think habits are so important, man. So for me, Atomic Habits, it's not too long of a read. Download it on Spotify. Check it out. Yeah, for anybody out there.
It's got a lot of different strategies in it. I think it's good too. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is how everybody's a little bit different with how they actually set goals or track or whatever. They have different personalities. They have different things they bring to the table. And you kind of got to figure out what works well for you. But one of the things I like about Atomic Habits is it kind of outlines different strategies and that you can kind of apply. It's not necessarily... And maybe I'm not remembering it perfectly right, but I don't feel like it's like like this is a strict formula that only step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will work and no other way around it. It's like strategies to make your habits more atomic or automatic and automatic. Yeah.
One more. Can I give one more? Because this one actually, now I'm thinking about it, this book really reshaped the way I thought about business. It's called The E-Myth. It's an older book. It's by a guy named I think Michael Gerber. Check it out. I think they redid it. It's called E-Myth Revisited now. But basically, he talks about removing yourself from your day-to-day operational aspects and only doing the things you're uniquely qualified to do. Kind of like Dan Martell's "Buy Back Your Time" principle, which if you guys are familiar with Dan Martell. But the E-Myth was kind of like that first book that really had that mindset of like, it talks about a baker, and this woman used to go in at like 4 a.m., bake bread for the day. She would leave at freaking 7, 8 o'clock at night, putting all these hours into her, into her business, and didn't realize like she just needed to invest into people so that she can, get more time back. But that alone, that book really helped me understand a little bit more on business, especially if you're doing stuff on your own. It's like, it feels daunting to hire somebody because you think you could do it better. And that's one of the most difficult things it was for me to hire somebody and like relinquish control to somebody else. I still struggle with it, but I think it's a powerful book if there's people out there that are looking to grow or scale or do more than they're doing now, or get some help. I think it's an important book to check out for sure.
I agree completely. It is definitely a trap for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of real estate agents. Definitely, they might be in a market or they might just be a solo agent that thinks they have to do everything and have to be good at everything, and they're not going to be good at everything. They're going to have strengths. And so play into your strengths. I love it. Cool. Now, if people are interested, you mentioned you coach. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have a mentorship. I don't call myself a coach. Yeah, coaches are way too rigid. I feel like more of a mentor. I'm more of like, hey, this is how we do stuff. This is how we put things together. Yeah, you can check me out. Hopefully, is it cool if I give my Instagram?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
everything. Cool. Yeah, whatever you want.
You guys can find me at on Instagram at the real Jesse Vasquez, because I'm Hispanic and there's like a billion other Jesse Vasquezes, so I had to be the real one. And then you can find me on YouTube if you just type in Jesse Vasquez. What we did today, I share a ton of midterm rental tips, ideas, tactics, all for free on YouTube. Go check it out. Or therealjessevasquez.com. You can check that out. All the stuff's on there as well. So Mattias, I appreciate you, man, for allowing me to be here, sharing with your audience. And hopefully you have some insight now on your property if you're going to move forward with it as a midterm rental. And if you are, please keep me updated. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. I think you opened a door for me, so I really appreciate it, Jesse. Thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Thanks for listening to the REI Agent.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe to catch new shows every week.
Visit reiagent.com for more content.
Until next time, keep building the life you want.
All content in the show is not investment advice or mental health therapy. It is intended for entertainment purposes only.